What's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is the Explorer of Horror here, aka Nate, and welcome to a stream. I haven't done a live stream in almost probably a year, especially a topic-based stream. It's been a minute, so welcome. It's gonna be probably a little bumpy ride from me. I know you guys everybody here is pretty, seasoned with streams and everything. I don't know why I had a little bit of an echo there, but we're gonna wing it today. We're talking about the original Planet of the Apes franchise, which would be 5 films. Um, this might be a part 1, might be just one video. We'll see how long this goes, but if we end up getting about 5 hours in, we might have to split it into 2 parts. But we'll see. We'll see where the wind takes us. Today, I'm joined by 3 wonderful guests. I want to thank all 3 of them for being here and talking some Planet of the Apes with me. We got Brian, Kubrick lover. What's up, Brian?
Nothing much. How are you?
Doing great, just chilling.
Yep.
We got Marty from the Trash Picture Show.
How y'all doing?
What's up, what's up? And then we got Ethel from 13 Originals channel, host of
You
Sci-Fi
blew
Sunday.
it up! You maniacs! You blew it up! Oh, wait, no, I'm jumping the gun. Hey, everybody.
That's a great line. It's so energetic, man. Like that ending, I'm just like, wow, he really waited till the very end to do something like this. Like, okay. But yeah, so welcome everybody to the stream. And Planet of the Apes is something that maybe you guys will have a bit more to say as far as where you started with Planet of the Apes, because me, I'm a relatively new fan of this franchise. I didn't come to these movies till later on. Actually, how I got interested in seeing these movies was Ethel. She did a stream talking about, it was a video or stream talking about the original franchise, and the stories interested me. And because for me, I always looked at Planet of the Apes and I'm like, Planet of the Apes, like that, just the name, one of those cases where I judge the book by the cover. By the title alone, I was like, Planet of the Apes? What? That sounds so... No, I'm not watching that. And I regret that to this day, because as soon as I went and watched the first Planet of the Apes, because I was like, I could buy the box set, but I don't know these movies. I don't know if I'm going to like them. Watch the first Planet of the Apes after watching Ethel's video breaking down the franchise, and which is an awesome video, by the way. If I can remember in the future, I'll try to link that down below. But after I watched the first movie for free, I think it was on YouTube with ads, I was like, I love this movie. I gotta see the rest of these films. So I went out and got the Blu-ray set and have been pretty much a fan ever since. So big shout out to Ethel for that. And I guess we can all just sort of give our thoughts on how we first heard about Planet of the Apes. Any of them, first movie, memories with Planet of the Apes. Is it a franchise that you think, do you think it's underrated? Do you think it's overrated? How do you guys look at Planet of the Apes as a franchise, the time that has faced this franchise, and how these movies, have they aged well to you? Have they aged poorly? I guess I could start out with Marty. What's your thoughts overall? Like, how did you first hear about Planet of the Apes?
Ironically, there's kind of a connection between the name of my channel and Planet of the Apes, because there was basically on Friday nights there was a showcase of movies. It was called the Last Picture Show. It was named after a particular type of movie with fucking Jeff Bridges. But the movies would be introduced by a guy called Brian Redden. And one of the first movies that was shown on that block was Planet of the Apes. So that was the first time I saw it. It was actually on kind of TV on Friday night really late. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I liked the idea that at first you think, oh, fuck, Heston's landed on some kind of backward primordial planet. And then by the end of it, he's like fuck, it's Earth. It was Earth all along. Great movie. I had seen other gags and stuff before. Like The Simpsons lampooned it, and lots of other things lampooned it.
Uh-huh.
But I think I was lucky enough never to have the ending spoiled when I saw the initial movie. So that was pretty cool. That was something I was happy with. Um, by and large, it's a staple of sci-fi, and yeah, I think there's a lot we owe to kind of Planet of the Apes and kind of science fiction that kind of gets overshadowed by Star Wars and 2001: A Space Odyssey. But that's just my initial thoughts, anyway.
Hmm. Yeah, it's awesome. I definitely agree with your points there. I think Planet of the Apes, after watching the franchise, I immediately was like, why are some of these movies not talked about? Like these movies, for the budgets, the time, just all the hell they went to with certain sequels. I'd imagine the first movie was also difficult to make, but most of those sequels had lower budgets and had even more cuts to everything they were doing. But yeah, that's a great sort of start with Planet of the Apes, man. I mean, it's just it's a film that at face value, I don't know, for me personally, I was just like, wow, Planet of the Apes. Watching it's a different story. But Brian, sort of, how did you start with Planet of the Apes? Where did you first hear about it? Did you see the first movie first?
Well, when I was a kid, like, I don't know, 9, 10 years old, they had it on syndicated television. They had like they had these marathon shows like during the year where they would like take on a topic and like spread it over a week. So like they had a Planet of the Apes week on syndicated television. So that's sort of how I became aware of it. And yeah, I'd seen the first one a while back. I don't know, when was it? The 80s, I think.
Oh wow.
But I just recently, before this stream this week, I watched the other four. Yeah, I think I mean, the makeup's kind of impressive, but I mean, even though, like, I think the Tim Burton one, the makeup, I think I don't like the Tim Burton one that much, but I think the makeup looks more, the jaw and everything works better because they look very flappy, very.
Well, Brian, that's Rick Baker. Like, keep in mind that they were made in the 60s.
Yeah, I
and
know.
that was more contemporary, and it was Rick Baker. So you're never going to get something as good as that. Like,
well, I mean, Marty, in 2001, the early man, they had the I think they had like mechanisms in the mouth that like made them the mouth kind of wrinkled and everything when they yelled and like opened their mouth because like
but Brian, that's going back to what I was saying as well, that it again, Planet of the Apes, it is a benchmark of sci-fi, but it had nowhere near the same amount of clout or backing as 2001. I mean, that was a Stanley Kubrick production, like, so. You know,
yeah, well, I mean, I still like Planet of the Apes. It's just, I'm just certain things like watching these films. They look a little dated, like especially Escape, but that doesn't take away from the enjoyment of it, you know. But then I was saying another thought, because I know this is sort of trailing off, but maybe it's not. It's my Star Wars box set. They did a documentary about like what cinema was like before that, and they said it was very cinema like especially with science fiction in the 70s and I guess the 60s. You had the Vietnam War, you had civil rights, you had the women's movement. So you had all this violence and everything was grim, and like Star Wars was like a optimistic kind of look at things. Maybe Star Trek was too in a way.
I do see what you
But,
mean. If you compare Star, I hate to interrupt, but I think I see what you
Yeah.
mean. But Planet of the Apes is a bit more darker, a bit more
Yeah.
meaner than Star
Definitely more
Wars.
somber. Definitely a more
Yeah.
somber take.
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean it's bad. I just
It's a more serious. It deals with more seriousness, which is
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
funny to be about a bunch of talking apes. But it's it's a very serious film.
and oh yeah.
No, I was just going to say, like, going into the second one, even, they have the gorillas beating up the unshimmed protesters, which
Uh-huh.
was obviously a nod to what happened at Kent State. So, like, you know, it's definitely a beast of its time, like, you know.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. It reflects its time period.
And I
Yeah.
think the reason why they did that is because, I mean, back in this time period, I think especially the man that wrote these first two movies, and you know, I think you couldn't do most of this stuff with if it was just human characters, and because it was trying to cover deals with race issues and everything. So I think with them utilizing the apes in there, it was able for them to do it. And even though it still had a message to it, it was able to do it to where it wasn't showing you Vietnam footage. It was showing you a fictional world with the same problems and problems that were happening at the time. It's definitely heavy
Yeah.
political movies for the time.
The Cold War and like the fear that the U.S. or the Soviets are gonna like take a bomb and drop it.
Hmm.
A lot of fear in these films.
Yeah.
Some other thought I had. Let me see. Yeah. Oh yeah, I know what I was gonna say. Franklin Schaffner directed the first one. He directed Patton, one of my favorite
Hmm.
films of all time. And Rod Serling wrote the first Planet of the Apes, and the novel's written by, I think he's French, Pierre
Yeah.
Boulez.
Yeah, French.
Yeah, I don't know if Pierre Boulez. It looks like in the credits of the other ones, maybe the stories are written by somebody else, and they're just playing off the Pierre Boulez
Well,
premise.
the premise and the concept is from Frenchy there, Pierre Boulez.
I don't know how to say his
but
name, so
it's you just throw a silent X in
Yeah,
there.
Pierre
It'd be fine.
Boulez. They actually, because they credit him as a writer on here, but I'm assuming just based off.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
like-
based
more
off the novel.
it's more the source material. He kind of gave him the foundation for the story.
the novel.
Which, ironically, I don't think they've even adapted that version yet. Like
No.
that version, they still haven't done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
You
think
mean-
That's
uh,
interesting.
well, I think like maybe Burton's was a little bit closer because they were a little more advanced, but in the book, they're highly advanced apes. They're not this pre-industrial civilization that
Yeah,
we find in.
they've got cars and shit, right?
Yeah, they've got cars, they've got factories, infotainment, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But
Oh, Ethel, is the book good?
I actually haven't read the book. I've looked through it, but I don't own it,
Yeah.
and I've not seen it in the bookstore, though I've not looked for it in the bookstore. I'm not a big fan of books unless they got them pictures that pop out.
Same.
I think because Mobius was such a big kind of creator in the French comic book community and sci-fi community, there is some kind of really coveted version of Planet of the Apes that he done that's basically an adaptation of a novel. I remember seeing it ages ago, and I was going for a ridiculous price. But yeah, it's essentially contemporary. Well, for 1960s or 50s, it was a contemporary setting. It wasn't like this feudal kind of setting that the other movies set up.
But I like the way the movie has it framed. Because if they were more advanced, it wouldn't play into the theme as well,
Yeah, I think aesthetically it works better too. a lot more for the set design and everything.
And the spaceship the first one with the spaceship, that looks very dated to me. Oh, I know. I had another thought. In Planet of the Apes, the first one, they age before they get out of the spaceship. And I know this is another movie, but Alien, when they come out of hibernation or whatever at the start of the movie, some of the males don't have a beard, and like Dallas has a beard, but I don't think Yaphet Kotto has a beard, or what's his name?
John Hurt. I don't think he got a beard either.
The other guy too.
So low T.
No,
I don't know.
It's
John?
it's not going to be cryogenics in science fiction is not going to be the same across the board, though, Brian.
Yeah. Well,
The laws of one cryotube in one movie aren't going to be the same as the others.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just saw the contrast between those two.
Hey, it could be worse. It could be like the cryogenics in Time of the Apes, the Japanese TV series made miniature film ripoff. You don't even need a pod. You just gotta damage the thing. Just damage
I kind of
the
want to challenge. I kind of want to challenge Brian to go watch Empire of the Apes, because if you thought this has logic issues, go watch the. Just look up pictures of Empire of the Apes, and
is that a
you'll
movie
see
or what is that?
It's about a $10 budget version of Planet of the Apes shot in someone's backyard.
Is it like one of those Vinegar Syndrome kind of a thing?
Yeah, it would totally fit.
Hey, Nace, it can't be any worse than Playmate of the Apes. Jen wants me to watch that. Jesus.
What is that? I've never even heard of that. What is that?
It's a softcore Planet of the Apes porno parody.
Oh my god. I did not know they made that.
We will see hairy ape pits.
Apparently one of the lines is, "You blew it! You blew it and I came! Damn you!" So...
Well, to move on as best we can from that, Ethel, where did you... God damn it. I love it. Where did you sort of hear about Planet of the Apes? Did you watch the first one first? Did you check out the whole franchise all at once? Did you watch the Tim Burton one first? Sort of, where did you start with Planet of the Apes?
This is a film. This is one of my way back films. This is a movie that I go back with. It's so far back. It was like at the time where I started making tapes and stuff. So like this would have been maybe 5 years old, maybe 4 years old when I saw this movie.
Jesus.
Oh wow.
I had back at that time, my folks had cable, so like I had HBO, and we taped the movie off of HBO with the VHS because that's what we did back in the 80s. Is we used the VHS, the VCR, and so yeah, I had this on I had this on high quality VHS. I think it was a Fuji tape. I had recorded off of HBO. It was on there with 2 other movies. I can't remember the other 2 movies. I think I had some original Star Trek taped on there too.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I used to watch this as a kid. Many is the time that I used to watch this film. It's one of the films I've probably seen the most. Probably this, Jaws, Halloween, Night of the Living Dead. These are all films I've seen so many times. I really have no clue how many times I've seen them.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I with my story with Planet of the Apes, it's sort of like I said, I didn't really see these movies till recently. Actually, the first time I even heard about Planet of the Apes was my grandparents had WoW on Demand, and on WoW on Demand, I used to go on there, and I don't know, I loved old school movie trailers. I love old school movie posters. I love the artistry of it. I love the editing. I don't know, something about old trailers always interested me, especially 70s and 80s stuff. And the title alone, Planet of the Apes, I was like, whoa. So I watched all the trailers, and I think the ones that really stuck out to me was the original Escape and Conquest. Those are the ones where I was like, oh, those look interesting, but at the same time, I was thinking like I don't know, Planet of the Apes, like I don't know, sort of a weird conflict there where I was like, maybe I should see them. And this is back when I was way younger. I was a kid, so I was a lot more like, is it cool to watch? Is it hip? Is it Fast and the Furious? Like, I'm over here wondering if this is something I should see. Like, oh, it's not Star Wars. I was one of those guys, but for ironically, the first one we're going to be getting to, the first Planet of the Apes, was not the first Planet of the Apes movie I seen. The first Planet of the Apes movie I seen was the remake. And I have a big bias on that one. I remember really enjoying it. And I haven't seen it since then, but I did pick up the Blu-ray. And so I'm curious to see what I think about that nowadays when I finally watch it. But after that, I seen Dawn of the Planet of the Apes in theaters, fell in love with it. And after that, I was like, okay, that was cool. But I didn't really look back on the old franchise. I just looked at, the newer ones. And then Ethel, you did that video and you broke down all the movies. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. Let me go check them out. And I went and watched the first one. And I guess we can use it to sort of transition into the first movie, Planet of the Apes, from 1968. On here, it gets an 8.0, so it still gets high ratings even to this day. But that was how I first seen this movie, and I gotta say, this movie blew me away. I was expecting over the topness. I was expecting, the stuff that you've seen in the trailers. Humans being hunted down. The humans are the savages, and I love the science fiction, just elements to it of the hyper sleep and people being in the little like tubes and one of them cracks, and that's kind of a scary, creepy scene where she dies. She like ages to death in that tube while the other two stay alive. And I always thought that was kind of okay, that's kind of creepy. But
great.
I love. Yeah, what's that?
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to just dovetail with that real quick. Great scene there where they see her dead in the tube, and then you hear that fucking loud screeching noise. That always scared the crap out of me as a little kid, because I'm like, oh my god, is it a zombie? No, it's the fucking hull of the ship, you idiot. But, go on. I had there.
That'd be terrifying if she just popped up. Like, wait, we got zombies in here? What? But hey,
oh my god, it's Life Force all over again.
Planet of the Dawn of the Dead, or Planet
Holy
of the Dawn
crap.
of the Dead Apes. I don't fucking know.
Hey, that'd be badass, man, if they did that. The Planet of the Apes, and the apes have to take out zombies. That'd be awesome.
Apes of the Dead. That's what you have to call it. You have to call it Apes of the Dead.
Oh, come on. We have to make that movie now. It has to exist. But yeah, I loved. What really stuck out to me with this movie was the set design, the locations. I loved the look of the movie. I don't think really, honestly, I think the first Planet of the Apes, I think it ages better than some of the sequels. And it came out first, and there's not really, besides maybe what Brian brung up, the spaceship crashing down, maybe that's one shot where I'm like, okay, green screen, obviously. But like, most of the other stuff, I was like, this looks great. Like, for 1968, I was like, wow, like, I loved. And what I loved about it was it's not a face value movie where, you think about it, that the humans have been dominated by the apes and they are now enslaved and they're in cages and everything. And that's a big part of the movie. And about how Taylor is there and he can't talk, and the drama, the suspense with that. And he's trying to basically get through this somehow, some way. But what really stuck out to me was the dialogue and the characters, and getting to know Cornelius and Zira, and getting to know Taylor, getting to know his philosophies, how he thinks about things. And I think Star Wars may have, you could argue, effects. You could argue maybe even star power of actors. You could argue action scenes. Maybe you could argue certain things are better in that than, say, Planet of the Apes. But I will say this. I think Planet of the Apes and some of the sequels in this franchise are some of the best written sci-fi movies I've seen that really impressed me with how serious they take the material. And it shows like it ain't always got to be jokes. You know, Planet of the Apes was never about joking. Oh, they're apes. It's corny, right, guys? It only gets funny with the third one, but the rest it's like it's serious. And maybe you could argue the remake, but
Well, they fit in subtle comedy, which I always like better in films. I don't like. I'm not knocking like the Joss Whedon style. It seems to be in every film now, where it's har har.
Everyone has to have a quip.
It must have
right.
quippy pop culture thing in there.
that MCU humor, Marvel.
But but like with the original Planet of the Apes, you have the subtle humor where like Taylor, he's on trial, right? And he's in front of the judges, the tribunal, I guess, because they're not really judges. There's three of them. And he starts talking about where he's from and what happened. And one of them covers his ears, the other covers his eyes, and the other covers his mouth. Very subtle, but very funny.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a nice kind of little meta humor right there.
And there's that scene which is both kind of terrifying and funny where they mention about neutering Taylor, and he's just like that look on his face. He's just like, no, but he can't talk. He can't talk, so it's like it's. I love that subtle element too, where he can't communicate at first, and
it's scary.
It's smart.
It's good writing. Yeah. I like those touches to it.
Because if he can't talk, then the only thing to distinguish him from the other humans were his clothes, but he's already lost his clothes. So it puts the audience in Taylor's position where he's trying to figure out what the hell is going on, and you feel the frustration because he can't communicate with them. And there's even some nice foreshadowing where he tries to write in the sand when he's in the human cage there. And, Dr. Zaius sees a little bit of it, and he kind of wipes it out with his foot or his cane. I think it was his cane.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Marty. Didn't mean to.
No. You're right. Again, it's incredibly frustrating because you are there with Taylor, and you're like, look, motherfucker, I'm not one of these people. I'm fucking able to communicate. But it's just, he can't. And you're just, oh, Christ, if they could only just fucking take the time to read or fucking let him write more some stuff. It's just, it's palpable, and it adds to the frustration. And you're like, it builds to that crescendo where he screams, "Get your hands off me, you damn dirty ape." It's just, that's the audience screaming finally,
There's some other subtleties. There's some other subtleties when he's in that same basic scene where they're in the human cage, where he's trying to write and the fucking other human keeps erasing it. And as the audience, we think, well, he's just like a dumb monkey because they're de-evolved humans. But then there's the other side of the coin is maybe he was trying to keep that hidden so the apes don't know he's any smarter. Maybe they don't talk because they know that if they talk, they'll get hunted down and the apes will cut out their brain, like what happens in the movie a little bit after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The lobotomy scene was a little creepy too. Like there's it's just a movie that I looked at it and I was just like, there's some stuff in here that I'm surprised they did. This is a G movie, by the way, G rated.
Oh.
Like, kids could see this movie back in the day. And I think,
yeah,
what's that?
The lobotomy thing, back in those days, it really isn't that too far away when you think about it, because it's just a few decades ago. I know it's sort of long ago, but in a way it's not. Like, they really did lobotomies on people like that were mentally ill, like, and people that were like gay in England until like the early 70s were like having lobotomies if they found out you were gay.
Brian, it's more social commentary though. That's That's the
Uh-huh.
great thing about it. There's so
Yeah.
many levels to this film. Like, an average person could be like, "Oh, it's just talking apes." But if you're clued in and you watch, you're like, "This is nods to kind of civil rights. This is nods to fucking mental health." There's so many
Mhm.
parallels and stuff going on in this movie, and that's what makes it so great.
Yeah, and this is a franchise. Oh, I'm sorry, Ethel.
No, go ahead. I'll go right after.
I was just gonna say that I love how this franchise, not only does each movie have its own sort of message, but I love how also the franchise. I mean, this first 5 movies, they all connect. There's no disconnection. There is no. I mean, there's some weird things here and there, like recasting and stuff, but they're all a franchise. This original timeline all goes together, and I love how we follow certain characters throughout these movies, and I love the cast in these movies. In this first movie, it's no exception. I mean, you got a wonderful, wonderful cast here. Roddy McDowell, probably my favorite actor of the bunch. I know everybody's like Charlton Heston. I do love Charlton Heston. He's a great macho man type of lead. I love his performance in the movie. Not a big fan of him as a person, but as an actor, his performance in the movie, he did a really good job. I thought Kim Hunter as Zira, Maurice Evans as Dr. Zaius. I mean, these are just legendary performances here.
Oh, Dr. Zaius is I think he's an important character. Well, I mean,
yeah.
I think he's an antagonist and a protagonist.
You also got Nova, which I thought was hilarious. When I was watching this movie, that was the one thing where I'm like, wait a minute. So she's supposed to be this savage type of cave woman type of deal, right? It's like, but they make her like the hottest savage of all time. I'm like, okay, that's a bit bizarre.
She
seems
to me more evolved than the other humans. Like she shows love.
I was just pleased to see that no matter how de-evolved we get, you'll still be able to shave your legs in the future, even if you can't see. I'm like, damn.
She had a great pair of pins on her. Not as nice as my Lady Jen's now, but they were still pretty awesome.
Where did she get her lady shaver? That's what I want to know. Good God.
Oh my God. But yeah, there was some things in there where I was like, wait a minute. Charlton Heston just snatches her up and it's just like, you're mine now. And I'm like, wait a minute, wait. All right, I guess just Charlton Heston said so. Okay. But yeah, I mean, overall Planet of the Apes, I mean, what more can I say about it? It's a classic, and I think it justifiably gets the credit it's deserved for pushing the boundaries of science fiction and really being creative and really showing that you can take a concept about a movie called Planet of the Apes and make it serious, make it well written, make it intellectual, make it have a lot of good discussions, topics, brung up in the movie, acting. I think all elements work in this first movie. I think it's got wonderful effects. I love the look of the makeup on the chimps and the apes and everything, the orangutans. I love that stuff. Yeah, it's been more realistically done now, but I love the makeup. I love the cast. I love the little bits of comedy they sprinkle here and there. But yeah,
because
I was gonna say I gave it the pass. I really enjoyed the first one
because of the concept. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll go right after.
I was just gonna say the concept, like, even though it might have some defects compared to like today's movies of special effects or makeup, the concept sort of saves that. Sort of the idea, the story, what it's all about is like that's what really makes it an important movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's also, there's a nice thing that not many people talk about when they talk about this film, but you got your protagonist, you got Taylor, and this is a man who is basically, he's fed up with humanity. He's disgusted with people. He wants to find something better somewhere. There's got to be something better than man. And then he discovers the apes, and you kind of watch him discover an appreciation of humanity. It's very subtle. It's very subtle.
That's true.
Yeah, because Because, like, as Ethel pointed out as well, like Taylor is kind of there is a bit of a fucking arc with Taylor, because when he gets there, when they first arrive on the planet and they encounter the primitive humans, he's like, "Oh, we'll be running this place within a week," and then his entire fucking outlook changes. Instead, it's like,
Mhm.
"Oh shit, maybe my bravado needs to be taken down a notch or two."
And maybe people aren't so bad
Yeah.
after all.
Yeah.
Oh, I
So
wanted
what?
to say. I'm sorry.
No, my bad. What was that?
Oh, I wanted to say Dr. Zayas is an interesting character because, like, you perceive him as an evil guy. He wants to lobotomize Taylor, I think, but like when they get towards the end of the movie, I guess we can give spoilers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So like, you see the toy doll, and he says when Charlton Heston and Nova are going to leave before they get to the Statue of Liberty, he says, he's what does he say? Something like he's going to meet his fate, or he's going to be
Be careful
disappointed
what
by
you
what
search for.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, yes, he's a bad guy in a sense, like he wants to like lobotomize Taylor, and he doesn't think much of humans, but like I guess he knows, and I guess you see it in further movies, maybe the second one. Like you realize that he knows that men are really like they kill each other, they conquer each other, that they're just not nice to each other. And I guess that's why he doesn't care about the archaeology and everything that Ryan McDowell's character, what's his name, Cornelius. He's just maybe he's bad, but I mean he knows he doesn't have much sympathy for humans because I think he knows something about the history of humans that
Well,
he
he's the what is it, defender of the faith, and he's also the chief or not chief, head science something. What is it? The head of the science? I can never remember that part. But anyway, he's in charge of the science, all the science kids. He's in charge of the science, and he's also the defender of the faith. He's a man of the cloth, because science and religion have always gotten together very well. They never contradict each other, ever. But yeah, so there's some conflict there. Is what I'm trying to say.
And I love the ending speech by when Cornelius is reading that scroll. And a lot of what they say in the movie, their philosophies on man, I mean, it's not wrong. And I mean, even to this day, that stuff hasn't aged. I mean, that stuff we talk about how, man will kill man over land and, betray his brother. And all that stuff they get into at the end. And I love how Cornelius, I want to say the line is, and death follows man, or he mentions man and he mentions like death in the same sentence, and just really deep stuff. And I really do think that this movie, after watching it, I may have even applaud a little bit after. I mean, I wasn't like outright clap, but I was like, man, okay, not bad, y'all. Good effort there, and a great movie. And I was just surprised that what they brought to the table. They definitely brought it with this movie. So what would you guys have with your closing statements on Planet of the Apes? How do you guys feel about it? I guess we can start with Ethel.
Well, I feel like it's one of the most important science fiction films of all time. Not to be too ham-fisted with it, but yeah. And as a movie, it's really good. Like it's got good writing, it's got good acting. I don't care how dated the special effects might look. I can suspend disbelief. I have been doing it since I was like 4 or whatever, and I continue to do so. It's a good movie. It's just a fat ass movie. It's just good.
That's nice. What's your thoughts on it, Marty?
I'm 100% with Ethel. It is one of the pinnacle sci-fi movies to come out of the late 60s, early 70s. It's up there with 2001, if you ask me. And other movies like Silent Running, I think it is a big cornerstone of sci-fi, and it doesn't get enough appreciation. It should be held in the same regard as 2001 and Star Wars.
I
And
agree.
I think maybe because people are like, oh, it's just people in monkey masks. It's kind of swept to the side. Again, they were working what they had with the time. They were working with what they had for the time, which the prosthetics and visual effects weren't 100%. But again, this wasn't a Stanley Kubrick production. This was a smaller sci-fi feature, but nonetheless a very very seminal and important sci-fi movie for the time.
Fixed budget.
Yeah.
Nice.
So actually, I think
Brian?
when they, oh, sorry, I'll go after.
No, you're fine. Okay. Brian, what's your closing thoughts on
No,
Planet Apes? Sorry, Ethel.
Let Ethel say what you're going to say because you.
I'll just be quick. I was just going to say, I think when they went to Fox with it and they got into discussions over the budget, I think I don't remember the exact number, but say Fox said, "Oh, it's X amount of dollars," and they come back with the budget, it's like $1 less than what Fox says they want. So that's all I was going to say. Go ahead.
Oh, I think this film is a important film. Maybe not just science fiction history, but film history in general. And I think the effects and the makeup, even, I guess you couldn't do the effects it'd be a different movie today. But I think the concept, the story is what makes it last. And basically this concept, I don't know how well it must have done really well at the box office. I think it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like in today's numbers, it would be like an okay return, but at this time, it's an amazing return.
Yeah.
Like if we look at 1968, $5 million budget made $32 million back. So
I mean, it garnered 4 sequels, sure. Like so.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's milked itself. It's a very profitable franchise.
And it fell into the sequel trap. Sorry.
Yeah, it's just, and with the sequels, they can like go out in different directions. That because the first one sets it up, and then you can just go off of that. And,
well, it's you also got to remember with sequels, the quality is going to dip. It traditionally it always does. There are exceptions, but because when you make a sequel, the studio gives you less money than they gave you to make the original, usually, as a rule of thumb.
Ethel, I generally agree that sequels are worse than their originals, but sometimes some sequels are better. And in this particular case, like I like Planet of the Apes, but I also really enjoy Battle. I really thought Battle was pretty good. So when we get there, but I like the first one. Yeah, I don't know. Planet and Battle, maybe are almost on the same level with me. Maybe that's my favorite. Maybe that's my favorite sequel of the 5.
It'll be interesting if we get to Battle, man. That's good.
I got some spicy opinions on Battle. So sorry, Brian.
Do you mean Conquest, Brian? Are you talking about the one where they're in
wait a minute. I'm in the wrong one. I mean Conquest. Conquest. Not Battle. Conquest.
Okay, that makes okay. I was really?
Battle is the one where the apes uprise against the humans, and Conquest is where Caesar is establishing the society.
It's a 4th one. That's the one I like.
How I like to remember it is Battle is the one with the school bus.
Yeah. Conquest.
And Conquest is the one with the turmoil.
Yeah, Conquest is the one I'm talking about. I'm screwing them up.
Oh, okay. Then no controversial opinion.
No. We'll get to that one. I definitely agree with you there. That's a great one.
Those are sort of equal to each other. Maybe Planet of the Apes. They're about on the same tier, both of those, I think. Of the ones, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably the best sequel one, I think.
Oh, definitely.
Anyways, yeah. So that's my thoughts.
It's
Well-
neck and neck for the third one and the fourth one for me for best sequel.
It's hard to pick, honestly. There's some great ones in there. But of course, Planet of the Apes, huge, big hit, and at the time they needed a hit. This 20th Century Fox, they were struggling. They were struggling with money. They were making movies that weren't making money at all, and so Planet of the Apes was kind of keeping them above water. And so, of course, with the original being a big hit in 1970, we got Beneath the Planet of the Apes, which was directed by a new director, Ted Post. And wow, oh wow, we're getting to probably the most bizarre of all the movies. I think this is the one that fucking blew me away in a whole different way than the first movie did. This one, I was just like, whoa, what's going on here? But Beneath the Planet of the Apes, does anybody want to start with this one? Ethel, Marty,
Yeah,
any of you guys want to start with it? Okay, Ethel, what's your thoughts
Ethel,
on
you go
Beneath the
first.
Planet of the Apes?
I'll go first, but I'll go quick. Kind of like Heston in this movie. It's very weird. It's a very strange sequel because, like, you got to pick up where you left off in the first film. So you got Nova and you got Taylor, but then all of a sudden there's different astronauts, and now you've got a guy who sort of looks like Taylor, and then he's with Nova at some point, and then there's underground New York. So I mean, it's got some stuff in it that's nice. Like I liked seeing New York destroyed. Nothing personal, New York. Sorry about that.
It's like, wow.
John Steele is cursing you.
The rebel.
What the fuck?
But yeah, I don't know. Not a very strong sequel, but it accomplished what it needed to do.
I agree with that.
But anyway, I went on way too long. Sorry about that, Marty.
Oh no, you're fine.
No, fucking work away. What can I say about Beneath Planet of the Apes? I think the only thing you can say is mutant Mormons that pray to a nuclear weapon. That's all you can say. It's like, what the fuck? It's going with the social issues, and it's commentary on religion. It's commentary on like fucking, like I don't know, was the Jim Jones cult around this time or other fucking cults, like maybe the Manson cult. This is an effect on it. You had these fucking weird cults and other religious kind of fanatics popping up around the time, and you like that. It kind of. I think the movies always had their finger on the pulse of what was happening in America, and just the whole Cuban Missile Crisis maybe left an impact as well. And it may have been with this one, they may have bitten off more than they could chew. As I said, some of the stuff works, like with the chimps protesting, kind of commentary on how the students at Kent State were treated.
Yeah.
A lot of social commentary, and some of it doesn't come true as well as the prior movie. That's my thoughts on it.
They're really trying to capitalize it in the second movie.
Yeah.
In fact, they're in the making of, I think, or if it's the making of, or it's one of the documentary featurettes that come with the multiple releases of this film. They talk about how they kind of leaned into that a little bit more with the second film because they recognized how powerful it was with the first film, and it wasn't done as well, but it's a sequel.
Yeah,
it's there. Brian, what do you think about Beneath? Part 2, number 2. What do you think about Beneath the Planet of the Apes?
It's probably the second worst of the films.
What?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm with you that it's not the strongest, but I wouldn't say it's the one of the worst.
Yeah, it's those telepathic guys, the telepathic humans. I don't know. It's kind of what mutants? Yeah,
mutants.
Yeah,
they're mutants.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they had to take the franchise somewhere. They couldn't just repeat the same movie. And it's kind of interesting.
They almost did, though.
Do you think those mutants gave Charlton Heston Omega Man flashbacks?
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, Omega Man's like a few years later, like 75, I think. Or
guys, what was it with Heston starring in apocalyptic downbeat ending movies? You had him in this, you had him in Omega Man, and you had him in Soylent Green. Jesus Christ! If you were in the apocalypse and Charlton Heston turned up, you'd be like, "Oh, I'm fucked. I'm fucked. Society is fucked."
Bring in the scoop. Bring in the scoop.
I don't know, the Charlton Heston isn't I don't think he's in a large portion of this movie. He just appears at the start and towards the end, and you got that other guy who I don't know.
I love it.
He doesn't carry the film as well as Heston does.
James Franciscus says John Brent.
Yeah, I mean, I was going with it, but
Brian, would you say he's the Diet Coke version of Heston? Would you say he's the Pepsi Heston?
Yeah, he's not as strong. I mean, they're just playing. Maybe Heston had like a paycheck thing, and only there's nothing in the contract or something. So
I could explain to you about Heston.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
He didn't want to do this movie. He didn't want to be in the film at all. They had to back up the money truck and beg him and plead with him and make deals with him. In fact, spoiler, if you haven't seen the film, plug your ears. But at the end of the movie where the planet gets destroyed, that was Charlton Heston's deal with Fox and the producers, is he will be in this movie. He's only going to be in it for X amount of time. And at the end, the planet has to die. The planet has to get destroyed, so there can be no more Planet of the Apes sequels. So he doesn't have to do it.
He forgot what genre he's in. It's sci-fi.
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
Yeah, there's no... You can destroy the Earth all you want. It's science fiction. We just bring it back. It's fine.
We'll just say it's an alternate dimension, the alternate timeline. There's always a way to do it.
Yeah, the alternate timelines, the highway, the road, lane A and lane B kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the newer movies, and it's like, how did this Planet of the Apes movie start? Well, James Franco wanted to cure Alzheimer's, and here we fucking are. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, so I don't. It's kind of interesting, like seeing the landmarks of New York City. It's kind of cool how they find the subway.
Oh, the matte paintings.
Yeah, the matte paintings. The matte paintings look. I mean, if I was back in those days watching that movie, probably everybody in the theater wouldn't stick out the matte paintings. Some matte paintings look convincing in some movies, and others not so much. And in this particular case, they don't look that convincing to me. But I'm sort of willing to go with it. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, Brian.
Oh, I'm just willing to. I'm okay. I can go with it. I can go. You know, I'm maybe some. Well, I don't know if younger, just other people that watch movies. Huh? The scale.
Yeah, I think that's why in this film the matte paint. Because if you look at the matte paintings, they're great. They're great matte paintings. They're fucking great. But I think it's the scale of the paintings versus the objects and the actors in the foreground, which make the paintings look less real.
It looks awkward. You mean?
It looks flat. They look flatter than they should.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah,
I think it's just the juxtaposition between the foreground and the matte painting, and not being scaled quite right.
And we're seeing that in like Blu-ray. Like with Wizard of Oz, I never noticed the matte paintings, even as a kid. Blu-ray, there's definitely matte. I can tell it's a stage, but like you know,
that's the downside of watching stuff in high definition. You see, like watching Jurassic Park, you see wires and you see kind of fucking puppeteers and shit. That's the downside of watching an older movie.
You gotta watch it. You gotta watch it in the original VHS.
The grainy
Taped right off a cable.
VHS.
Yeah. Well, honestly,
It doesn't pull the
VHS.
curtain back.
Yeah, like VHS. For some of those older movies, hit a lot of the special effects I didn't even notice until I watched Blu-rays, and I'm like, oh, I can see a wire. Oh, I can see a string right there, or I can see where the matte painting ends and the real part begins. Like, it's just interesting when you look back on it's. We want to clean these movies up. We want to have them look the best they can, but we also do show a bit of that age when we do that with certain films, especially this one. I think this one ages a bit more,
Was this
or
kind
not
of
a bit.
Oh,
What's
It's
that?
not quite as bad. Oh, sorry.
What's up, Brian?
oh, go ahead, Ethel.
Ethel?
I was to say it's not quite as bad as some DVDs you get, not even Blu-rays, but DVDs and the special effects that worked so wonderfully on VHS and in the theater. Well, it's like an Evil Dead. Now you got a big square around the moon. Oh, hey, look!
I know. Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about, Ethel. I noticed that too. I'm like, what the
damn
hell? Who put a postage stamp of the moon in the top right corner? What the hell?
Was this?
We need
was
like
this-
a lo-fi version on these DVDs sometimes.
Yeah, for real.
Was this movie a rush job? Like, we gotta write this script like in
Oh,
I don't know,
definitely.
5 days or something like that.
This
you know?
was very. I mean, even though it technically took 2 years to make, they
Yeah.
were writing it right after Planet of the Apes, and they just didn't know what to do for the longest time. They were just like, how do we continue that story, and how do we follow up the ending, and how do we do this? And Charlton Heston was giving it a lot of headache, and Roddy McDowall was busy. And fun fact, when I first watched this movie, I'm like, wow, that looks nothing like Roddy McDowall. But I'm like, maybe the makeup's a bit cheaper, but I'm like, it looks nothing like him, but it sounds just like Roddy McDowall. So I was like, my mind was like, is that him? I can't tell. And one of my problems with this movie, and I think this is definitely a film that, even though I like this movie, I enjoy it, I have fun with it, it has a charm to it, I enjoy the differences in it. It's out there. I appreciate how out there they went with it. But I think one of the problems I have that I at least can remember off the top of my head right now is I think they do the Cornelius and Zira characters dirty in this movie. I mean, they're in like 2 scenes, and I'm just like, wow, man.
I'm kind of glad in a way though, because that allowed them to survive. It sets up the plot for the next movie. But yeah, you do get 2 of the most compelling characters from the franchise sidelined for what's a pretty major entry.
And like, there's, I think this one probably has the weakest connection to part 3 because they explain a lot in part 3 because they couldn't show a lot in part 3 or in this one. Like, there's a whole side plot that happens that we don't even see or hear about till the 3rd one, and they're like, oh no, well this was happening, this is happening. Like, this movie's kind of confusing because it started out as, I looked at it as a okay version of the first movie for a while. I was like, all right, this dude crashes down, there's just so happened to be another guy, okay, that's a little weird. He just so happens to meet the same girl, Nova, that somehow he finds her.
Yeah.
Somehow he finds the same place where the apes are at, and there's a bit of a structure going on in the beginning where it's like, okay, there's this general, he's the new villain, he's leading the gorillas, they want to go out to the Forbidden Zone. I'm like, okay, Forbidden Zone, that's interesting, what's that all about? And then going up to the Forbidden Zone and seeing a fucking field of fire with upside down crucified gorillas. When I seen that shit and the statue of the orangutan bleeding, I'm like, whoa, what is that? And it sort of, from that point, kind of spirals. Whether you want to look at it as a good or bad thing, it spirals into like, boom, here's this new plot. And I was just like, wait a minute, there's mutant humanoid things underground that kind of look like humans. They're mutants. And they have mind control powers, and they have telekinesis, and they have illusion powers. I'm just like, holy shit. And they worship the nuclear bomb, and they pray to it, and their costumes are all wild, and they have Charlton Heston fight this new guy, Brent, and it's a pretty decent fight. And I was just like, and all of a sudden, Charlton Heston just returns into the movie like that, and I'm like, wow, where were you at the whole time?
Yeah.
And a suit.
Yeah.
I'm like, why is he wearing a suit? He didn't even want to wear a costume. He had a suit on. One of the most brutal endings in the franchise, though. The ending is like really depressing.
It's the fucking Nate. The ending is like the Wild Bunch. Like fucking everyone gets gunned down, and then fucking Taylor's like, fuck you all, and activates the bomb.
That's why I love when people say, well, Conquest was too dark. I'm like, have you seen Beneath? People get shot in the head at the end of that movie. You see it. You see a man get shot up in the end of that movie, and a big bomb goes off, and of course, this is how they were planning on ending this franchise, at least Charlton Heston did, but of course we know that that's not how it all ended. Closing thoughts on Beneath. I think it's interesting. I think it's different. I don't know. I would definitely put other movies in this franchise above it. There are certain scenes that look gray, when in the original movie they looked bright and colorful and green and had a bit of life and color to it. In this one, seems kind of dull at points, seems kind of empty at points. The costumes don't look that good in this one as compared to the first one, you know. There's a scene where Cornelius and Zira are sitting in this crowd, and you can tell they're the only ones that have makeup. All the other ones have like pullover masks, and I was like, that's
I noticed that.
weird.
Yeah.
That's so the budget.
Yeah, definitely some budget stuff there. I think it tried. It tried. It had a little time to make this movie. It had even less money, had more problems. I liked the movie, although it's one of those weird things that doesn't happen a whole lot with franchises where the second one isn't always the best sequel. Usually people go, part 2 is always the best, part 2. And I'm like, I like other ones a bit more than this, but I don't mind Beneath. I think Beneath is a decent, fun watch. I think it's different, out there, weird, bizarre, definitely its own. I mean, you see a scene where 2 apes are in a sauna talking to each other. I mean, you never seen, like, I was like, a sauna scene? What the fuck? Or a scene where, oh, they have these pullover masks, and they pull the masks off, and it reveals the scarred tissue underneath. I'm like, what the fuck?
I forgot
what the
about
fuck
that.
scenes. So, to sort of close out Beneath the Planet of the Apes, I think it's okay. I think it's decent. I think it's a decent follow-up. But I do think the next one's a lot better. But anyways, what's your guys' closing thoughts on it? Marty?
It's a fucking mad flick. The start is promising. The middle part is, it kind of drags ass, and then it gets a bit confusing, and then the end picks up again, but it's the end. So it's a mixed bag. It's got some good ideas, but the execution isn't on par what came with what came before, if you ask me.
I definitely agree there. What's your thoughts on it, Brian?
Not as good as the first one, obviously. It's there's better ones that are made after this, and I think it has some interesting ideas, but it was kind of cringe, some of the stuff. It's just second weakest for me, probably.
Okay.
Second worst, I would say. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's probably other Planet, not just the first, but there's the other one coming up that's probably more rewatchable to me. And this one's, is it rewatchable? I don't know if I don't know. Just it's a mix. Maybe I go with Marty. Mixed bag. Yeah. I also don't like the the blowing up of the earth, and just some of the stuff is just like, and the putting Charlton Heston at the start.
It felt rushed.
And yeah,
that whole ending felt real snappy, real rushed, real quick. I was just like, wow.
It didn't seem to make any sense, So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's I don't know what to think about it. Maybe it's is it forgettable? I don't know. It's not one of the strongest of the sequels. I'll say that.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Ethel, what's your closing thoughts on Beneath the Planet of the Apes?
Well, I mean, you're never gonna recapture the glory of the first film, and you'll never get the surprise back because it was the first time anybody'd seen it. It's the first time you did it.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna recapture that. As a movie, you need it. You need it. You can't skip it because if you want to do a marathon, you kind of need the second one because otherwise you can't connect the third one to the first one. And well, it's got Charlton Heston, so it's you need to know what happened to Taylor, because if you skip it and you go right to the third one, there's no Taylor in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't know, the audience has no one to connect with. The second one we get Brent. He's a poor. He's I mean, what are you gonna do? You're serving breakfast. You've got toast. You're out of butter. You use margarine. God damn it, that's what you do.
It looks the same, but it ain't the same.
That's an optimistic way to look at it.
Yeah. So, and we got Heston later on, and we had him in the first part of the film real quick. So, I mean, he's in there. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a serviceable film. I like it better than Battle, but not as much as the other two films, Escape and Conquest. So yeah, don't skip it because you need it, but don't expect the world from it.
Yeah, I get the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And of course, with Beneath, we had another hit with this film. It made almost as much money as the first one. It was a pretty big hit, so they were like, all right, let's start churning them out. But they ran into a brick wall because, like, how do we do another movie? There's no way to. Then they thought about, of course, all sci-fi movies get to this point eventually, time travel and getting into, okay, well, when the planet blew up, how about some of the apes that survived got sent back in time, and we're going to put them in modern day San Francisco, or is it Los Angeles? I think it's Los Angeles where this one takes place. And you get modern day 1971 Los Angeles, and you get Roddy McDowall, Kim Hunter starring in this movie. You got Cornelius and Zira as the stars, and this is really the point where I think Roddy McDowall picked up that baton. And I think Zira did too, as far as being some of the more standouts of this franchise. I do think that Roddy McDowall, the next movie is his movie. But this one, I think him and Kim Hunter do great jobs as our leads. They're likable characters. They're wonderful. We get to know them a bit more. We get to spend a little bit more time with them. And of course, the concept is they go back in time to the 1970s on an Earth of humans. So now it's the reverse, where the apes are looked at as, are they the enemy? Are they not? They're feared. And we get into a lot of fun stuff. Ethel, I guess you can open us up with your thoughts on the third entry, Escape from Planet of the Apes. What are your thoughts on this film?
A great entry into the franchise, and the personal favorite of mine out of the sequels. This and Conquest are pretty much neck and neck. I think about it and I'm like, which one do I like better? I don't know. It depends on my mood. My mood. But this we get to see a switcheroo. Instead of putting sand under the tires, we're throwing some snow under there to get out of the jam. We've got the apes on a planet that's Earth. That's now not the planet of the apes. It is the planet of the humans. And it's nice to see. And the big reveal at the beginning of the film is pretty good too, with the helmets. They take the space helmets off and they're all apes.
Yeah, I love the music in there too.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know, it's kind of cool. And Yeah, we got Khan in this movie too. Khan's in this.
Oh yeah.
Ricardo Montalban.
Mm-hmm.
Is to be
I know him from
dominated.
Naked Gun. I like him in that movie too, Naked Gun.
Great
I
actor.
must kill the queen.
but yeah, it's nice, and I don't know. We kind of expect them to get treated better by the humans than Taylor was treated by the apes, and oh my God, we're right. They are getting treated better. And then, well, at least up until towards the end of the film, because we all know what happens there. But yeah.
Nice. Marty, what's your thoughts on Escape from Planet of the Apes?
I like this one. Some of the humor kind of knocks me for a loop, but I do like the paradox elements and the whole self-fulfilling prophecy that, like, one guy, in an effort to fucking prevent the rise of the apes, he ends up securing what's going to happen. He ends up killing our two apes, and as a result, there's resentment, and the first kind of die is dropped, and it kicks it off. A character in an effort to stop, like, the kind of the future of apes, he ends up creating it, and that's something I like. I like the idea. Well, you're fucked. It's a paradox. You're fucked one way or the other. So that's why I like this movie. And again, like the prior ones, there is a very grim downer ending as well. Like, you know.
Mm-hmm. Really downer. It's really downer. Where I was just like, oh my God, especially with Baby Milo. I was like, oh, what the fuck? It went there, man. It went there. Again, G-rated. This you see a baby get shot, G-rated. And also the last movie is G-rated too. They didn't get PG until later, but yeah, there's Brian, what's your, or Marty, my bad. Are you wrapped up with your thoughts on it?
That's it. As I said before, just the whole paradox element and, like, the self-fulfilling prophecy. I think that's a great addition to the story.
Totally. And it's definitely a different aspect to it. Brian, what's your thoughts on Escape from Planet of the Apes?
Well, I think a lot of 70s films, I think there were a lot of downer 70s films. I like depressing films, and, like, I think there are a lot of depressing films in the 70s. But anyways, I got to be contrary here. This is probably the worst one, in my opinion.
Oh, wow.
It's I don't know, silly. Maybe you could sort of accept it with the other four. Setting up the stage.
Brian, I can see where you're coming from, because the humor sometimes does pull you out of some of the humor is a bit silly and takes you out of the movie.
Yeah.
Saying that you don't enjoy a nice cold glass of grapefruit or grape juice plus?
Yeah, it's grape juice plus. Come on, y'all. Oh, that's dark, because he gave her wine knowing she was pregnant. I was like,
I don't know.
He's like, we're just going to make sure that ape's not so smart after all. Have another glass of wine.
Yeah, it's it's interesting how they plant the seeds for the next movie.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's the execution, or just I don't know. I mean, it's kind of interesting how they come out at the start of the movie. How they come out, you think it's astronauts. I sort of thought to myself, there's got to be a twist here happening at the start. Something's got to be surprising. I sort of thought maybe, you know what? I think I saw a photo or footage before this movie. I watched this movie of the apes and astronaut suits. So I think I sort of clued in. I think I sort of knew that was going to happen before I watched this movie.
Excuse me.
So, and the humor kind of takes away from it. I guess you can have humor, but maybe these films are. I mean, like when we get to the next one, I don't know if there's a lot of humor in that one. It's pretty grim.
Yeah.
So it's a big contrast. And
that's true.
Them using Western I mean, 20th century appliances, 20th century clothes. It's jarring.
It is. That's a fair point.
It's just, and I'm trying to think through the movie now.
Would you say it's also got the smallest plot of all of them? It's a condensed movie. It's not really the whole ape gimmick. Really isn't the big focus. It's more about dialogue and more about the escape, no pun intended, of the plot. It's an escape movie. Always on the run, always going to the next place. Do you think it's maybe a bit too simple?
I think it's too silly.
Too silly.
And I think I like silly movies, but I don't think it works in this context. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I feel. It just it's sort of jarring. It takes me out. And
I think, again, as I said before, I think the jokes delegitimize the more kind of fucking pinnacle aspects of the plot. The more palpable moments are deflated by these kind of cheap gags.
And the Ricardo Montalban circus thing is kind of silly.
Okay, that I'll give you. I think that's when it got a little. Oh, they just so happened to know a guy who had the circus, and he just so happened to be okay with them possibly one day taking over the human race. I'm just like,
is it
okay? That what the fuck? He even's like, if we're going to be dominated, I want us to be dominated by the likes of you. It's like, what?
He totally wanted to be dominated by Hunter there.
I guess so. I mean, the dude's like,
what is it with these movies and people want to fuck monkeys, for fuck's sake?
There's a lot of kissing in these movies.
I
They kiss him in the first movie, and they kiss in this movie too. There's a lot of kissing.
There's like that women's club meeting.
This movie had the reverse, though, right? Because it's or no, I guess because no, Taylor wasn't an ape, so yeah, no, it wasn't a reverse, but it feels like a reverse of the kiss, even though it's still the same two type of people. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about?
In that movie, it's like, Zero, I'm gonna kiss you. Is that okay with you?
The women's club meeting kind of. I guess they're capitalizing on things like the women's movement, and I was just thinking in my head of something. The two scientists that look at them at the start, I think they're romantically involved. Are they?
Yes.
Just like sort of like a parallel. I don't know. I don't remember their names between them and Cornelius and Zira. Sort of like but yeah, it has some grimness, I guess, because they try to, what is it, sodium pentothal or whatever they try to inject into her.
Yes.
So it's got some grim elements in it, but I feel this is the weakest of the five. So, yeah, I don't know.
Weaker than Battle?
Yeah, weaker than Battle. Yeah, I think.
Wow.
The ending is pretty. Maybe that's when it picks up steam more. It's just the stuff where they do all these things, like have a party, the women's meeting. It's just dressing up, getting 20th century clothes. It just.
But it's Cornelius in a suit. He's wearing a suit.
Would that really happen? And I mean, it's not reality; it's a movie reality. But I don't know. It's just
Brian, do you want us to go out and abduct a chimp and dress him up? Right turn, Clyde. Just fucking bang.
We'll take him to Men's Warehouse. You're gonna love how you look.
But I guess it sets a stage
you cannot
for
bring that chimp into the gap, please.
It sets a stage for conquest. So, in a way, maybe they have to rewrite the script. Maybe that's what they had to do. The circus was kind of silly, but maybe it works in a way because it can hide the knees that way. I don't know.
Well, where else are you going to get rid of an ape? You got two options, the way I see it: zoo or circus.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I mean, you can't release them.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You can't release him into the wilds of California. What's he going to do? 3-card Monty on the street? It's not going to work.
Maybe that's a strong part in the movie. Towards the end, I'd say that's a stronger part
when
of
it
the
gets
film.
a bit darker.
Yeah, when Malaban hides them, and then they end up on the. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe they hide out in this wreck of a ship for budget reasons for the movie. So that's kind of interesting,
Well,
You
it
can save
definitely
some
had a
money
lower
by,
budget.
So yeah.
Well,
It's
weren't they
kind of
going to
weird,
escape?
though.
Weren't they going to escape on the ship?
Yeah, I think they just had to wait out for a week, and they were going to be able to get out of there. The only thing that brung them to that fate was Zira leaving her bag behind. That's basically why they found her. They found her suitcase, and they were like, "Oh, they're nearby." So really, if they would just remember to grab the suitcase, they would have made it. It would have been like, okay. And I think with Escape from Planet of the Apes, I think what it is I really, really enjoy this movie. I love it. It's one of my favorites. However, watching it this time, I did notice, and I was curious if this is how you felt, Brian, but I kind of felt like it's a very small movie. And when we look at it, I think what made Planet of the Apes, and I love this movie, don't get me wrong, it's one of my favorites, but the one aspect that I was kind of iffy on was we're going to take the thing that made the franchise really, really unique, and we're going to minimize that, and we're going to make it set in modern day. And I felt like that's a bit more, I guess you could say, cliche, where the fish out of water story, where let's bring them and let's just flip it to humans. And it's a cool idea. It's a fun idea. I like the idea of them at first being encaged and experimented on, and more not experimented on, but more just tested to see how smart they are. And they talk, and they have this guy that's with them called Milo, the first Milo, who's supposed to be this really genius ape who they have the backstory of, well, we rebuilt Taylor's ship, and
I'm thinking
what's
Aldo.
that?
I'm thinking of Aldo in Conquest. Not Conquest, Battle. I was thinking that's the same name. That's two different apes. Yeah.
Yeah, you're thinking
Similar
of
names.
General. You're thinking of General Aldo, not to be confused with General Urko from the series.
Wow, they have so many similar names in these movies.
Well, it's ape names. It's like if you go to China, there's 1,000 chins in the phone book.
Oh my god.
Aldo's a very common name in the Planet of the Apes, goddammit. And so is Urko. Not everyone has weirdo names like Cornelius.
Yeah, Cornelius, and then there's Zira. Okay, that's science fiction. And then we get back to some
the joke is the weirdo name is fucking Cornelius is I think is the only normal name that any of the apes have, aside from out of all the apes, Cornelius is the only one who has a human name.
Yeah, because Zaius, that's definitely not like a common name.
Zaius, Zira, Aldo, Urko.
That's true.
Milo's a normal name, so we had that. But I mean, that's more of a ancillary character.
Yeah,
really.
that's true.
But I don't know. I'm just thinking.
I think though that Escape from the Planet of the Apes, I do enjoy a lot. I think it's a great movie, mainly for the acting. I think the acting's on point. I think the story's on point. I love the idea. I love the 70s, so I love the fact that here's them in 1970s LA, and they're trying on the clothes, and they're going to these meetings, and they're going to boxing fights, and they're just seeing how everything is going. I liked all that
thing. That's kind of awkward. Where the whatever that guy, he says to what's his name, Cornelius, what do you think of boxing? Like that just seems awkward. Yeah, it's just like it's jarring. It's I don't know.
I think where the movie really picks up though is when Milo gets introduced, the baby Milo. and then when the chase starts, I think then it really picks up. The suspense picks up. They accidentally kill a human. Of course, you have a villain who's the whole
Oh,
time looking
yeah.
for that evidence. He's looking for that solid, concrete evidence, and then he gets that reason. And despite the president's orders, he's gonna go shoot to kill. And
Yeah.
even though this guy is the villain, I do like how they at least let you see his point of view of where he's coming from. It's like, well, look, would you change the fate of the world if you could? If you could change the fate of the world, what would it take? And do you let things play out or do you not? It's interesting biblical stuff in there too. The ending's very dark. I think it has one of the darkest endings in the series, and that's saying something compared to the last movie. But I think just the brutality of it, the sadness of it. It's a very sad movie at the end. It's a very tragic story, and it sets up Conquest very well. It's a great in-between piece. I think that's how it works best. It's a good in-between piece. I don't think you can just turn on Escape from Planet of the Apes and, oh, that's all I'm going to watch, and that's great. I think it works best in between movies, and when you watch 2, 3, and 4, they especially 3 and 4, they flow together real well. And some of the costumes, like there's an ape, the gorilla, or is it a chimpanzee they run into, where it's like clearly someone in a costume, and there's a gorilla where it's clearly someone in the costume.
Oh, I noticed that. Yeah, because you see
fun.
You see their eyes around their eye area. You can tell it's a human.
It's a lot of fun. I have fun with that stuff. I love the music. I want to mention the music. I want to say Jerry Goldsmith.
I think he was. I think he
great
did.
score. Love the music. I love the direction. I love the cast.
Yes,
Roddy McDowall and Kim Hunter steal the show. Of course, they're the leads. So yeah. Overall, I enjoyed Escape from Planet of the Apes. I think it's a wonderful sequel.
Do you think? Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. What was that?
I was going to say, Nate, do you think that maybe a mistake of this film is to connect Taylor to, what's supposed to be modern times? Like, because that's always the thing that I fault this film with the most, is they shouldn't have any knowledge of Taylor, because he should be from the future beyond the 70s. Because that's the only problem I have with it. I kind of feel like that's a mistake they made. Is they should not acknowledge that Taylor from that time period, he should remain in the future.
That's a pretty big fucking continuity error to fucking ignore.
I noticed that too. But I was like, wait, that doesn't work.
It's like, no, well, if that's the continuity, then this can't be the 70s. This has to be a future that looks like the 70s. But they don't even do that to resolve it.
No.
So that's a problem. But I mean, it's a nitpick of a problem. It's a very nitpick, because it doesn't affect anything other than that tiny little bit of film where they mention Taylor.
I noticed that, and another thing I noticed this time around watching it, because this is really the only one I revisited. I got real busy and I wasn't able to check out or rewatch really any of the other ones, but this one I rewatched today, and I noticed that, and I also noticed the motivation for the villain is a little weird, because his whole thing is, well, we gotta kill baby Milo so we can stop the overtaking of the human race. Understandable, but that same villain earlier in the movie introduced the idea of, here's the idea of sort of a time loop in a way, where it's the painter painting a picture of a picture, and it zooms out and it zooms out, and he explains a timeline. I'm like, well, if this timeline, it's an interesting idea, but if the timeline is different starting this time with a different origin, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to take over the humans again. That means that we can, in a way, in the story, they could teach the apes not to do that, and in a way, live with the apes peacefully and not have to worry about them taking over the human race.
Like, Nate, the fact is, the guy knew that certain actions would result in this, then he should have perceived his actions would have been one of those things that would push that kind of doomed outcome.
And in a way, it accelerated it.
Yeah.
Because in the next movie, we're already there. In the next movie. So he didn't even change anything. He made it worse. It's interesting, real interesting when you think about the
Yeah,
timeline and everything.
I like, again, I think the strongest part of this movie is the whole time paradox and the
Mhm.
self-fulfilling prophecy and stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And
totally.
and you know what? The other thing is it would make more sense too, on the same point of leaving Taylor in the future and separate from this time period in this timeline, because it would give the apes more time to get to evolve, you know, because like as you got Zira and Cornelius, and it's like, well, it doesn't have to be their infant baby, and in fact, it wouldn't be. It'd be further along in the future if all apes were going to gain that kind of faculty, because you start with just one evolved ape and no evolved apes. I mean, you're going to take a long ass time. That's all I'm saying.
Hmm. It's really interesting when you think about that stuff, and when you really take a look back after you watch all the Planet of the Apes movies, you look back at the big picture, you get to really see how everything connects and how everything goes together. And really, bro, I don't know if you guys could hear that. Some
Yeah.
freaking dude outside.
They're fucking
Uh,
drag racing outside your house, days.
yeah, I guess so, man. Uh,
That was weird.
but yeah, when you look back at the big picture of Planet of the Apes, you get to really see how it goes, how at beginning, middle, end, it all connects, how characters grow and how they change, and yeah, I really think it's interesting to see Escape connect to Conquest. And I guess saying that, we can move on to the fourth film in the Planet of the Apes franchise. Escape made money. It wasn't a bomb or anything. It just didn't make as much money as they hoped. So ironically, they were like, well, let's go get this director, J. Lee Thompson, and he's known for his big budget action movies. Let's have him make a more action oriented Planet of the Apes movies. Maybe the last one was a bit too talky, so let's get him to make this one. It's gonna be action. And they went and made the movie, and then they're like, holy shit, we just made a really dark movie. What do we do with it? And thus we get Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, one of the more interesting films in the franchise, both on screen and off screen, knowing the backstory, knowing a bit of what they were wanting, then what they got, and they got a movie that was way ahead of its time, and they didn't really prepare for it. And thus, as a result, Conquest really is the black sheep of the Planet of the Apes movies. This is the one that people kind of steer clear from. It's too dark, it's too gritty, it's too mean, it's too real. A lot of people look at it as it's just too close to it's blurring the lines a bit too much for them as a Planet of the Apes movie. For me, however, I freaking love this movie. I think this is like, some days the first movie's better, some days this one's better. Like, it's up there with the first movie. I think it is one of the most criminally underrated sci-fi movies of all time, and I think it deserves a hell of a lot more credit than it gets. And if you go to see this movie, and I hope everybody here has seen the uncut version, because if you see the R-rated, not the R-rated, the theatrical cut, because this wasn't R-rated, but it was the first PG movie in the Planet of the Apes movies. But the uncut version, they put all that blood and stuff back into the violence. They put the original ending back in there. So I do want to stress, if you watch this movie out there, if you haven't seen it yet, watch the unrated version. It's the true movie that you're supposed to see. And I think Conquest, man, I mean, you got Milo, played by Roddy McDowall, in this movie, and this is his best performance. His performance in this movie is absolutely amazing. And he not only plays Milo, but he becomes Caesar, the iconic character Caesar, who we all know from the new movies, but this is where it all started. This movie laid the
Yeah.
foundation for Rise of the Planet of the Apes and Dawn, the badass Caesar. This is where it all started with Roddy McDowall. And I think his transformation from Milo to Caesar is one of the greatest character arcs in film And I know people are like, "That's crazy. You're nuts." I legit think it's some of the best written character work of all time, and it's the best. I mean, Roddy McDowell, amazing job, and this is his movie. You know, this is his film. He's the only ape in the movie that has dialogue. He's the only. He's the main focus. This is his show, and I really dug that. And I love how dark it gets. I love how gritty it is. I love the message about, you know, in a way in this movie, the cycle of violence. How far is too far? When do you become the villain? When does fighting for the right thing become the wrong thing? When does it's and it gets mentioned in Battle, but I think it works here too, where it's the cycle of violence. We didn't change anything. It's just gonna happen again. Where we were before is where we are now. And apes in this timeline are gonna be even more against humans than they were arguably in the previous timeline. So I freaking love it. I know I've been gushing over it. I'll pass it off to Marty. What's your thoughts on Conquest?
Question for you, Nate. Do you think
What's up?
because this was going to be a PG and more violent and more aggressive movie than the prior movies, and the prior movies were fairly fucking graphic and stuff, do you think it was a conscientious decision to make the humans essentially, with the human antagonists, a fascist police state? So it wasn't totally kind of like reprehensible watching the apes like fucking cut loose on these people, because the movie kind of sets up that there's a kind of fascist police state now, and I think maybe that was to soften the blow on seeing the apes killing these human characters.
Yeah, because it would have made the apes the villains if they would just like, oh, humans living their lives and one day boom they all get killed. It would be a lot more the apes are the villains. So I think that doing it this way, where the humans were you watch this movie, you're like, man, I hate the humans. And I'm like, oh shit, I am a human. So what the fuck? Like, it fucks with you. You're like, man, I don't blame them for killing the humans in this movie. Yeah, some of the shit they do to them, it's like, yeah, go ahead. But it's like, wow, it's deep in that way. And I think it lessens the blow a bit, but I think also it caused a bit more controversy with that, because in this time, people could look at it as, so what are you trying to say? The police are evil? What are you trying to say? The system's against us? Like, at this time, to have that message in the movie made it a bit more controversial in a way. There was just no way around it. This is probably a safer route, but still, this kind of movie was going to get controversy no matter what. Because even me watching it after seeing previous movies and seeing stuff, and Dawn gets pretty serious too. But as I was watching this, I was like, wow, this movie is amazing. Like, just how far they push it. Commendable, man. The guts they had to make a movie like this. And I don't really think you could have made it in the 90s or the 2000s. It's like, no, this is 70s. This is early 70s.
Yeah.
Grimy, bright red paint looking blood. Like, people just, oh, they kind of remind me of Nazis. And even the lead villain, he studied Nazis and how they dressed and how they talked, and he wanted to sort of bring that to his character. And so they definitely
like Nate, the scene with fucking Ricardo Montalban, that's like the Gestapo fucking interrogating someone. Pure and fucking simple, like, you know.
Yeah, and I think my favorite, there's two scenes that really stick out to me in this movie. There's the scene where he finds out that Ricardo's character Roddy McDowell finds out that the Armando character is dead, and he cries, and he goes from sad to anger. And I was like, wow, that was amazing. And then there's the ending speech, which I thought it's one of the best ending speeches you can see in a movie. It's wonderful. Roddy McDowell's got it. He's Caesar in that moment. He becomes Caesar, and it's a different character. But sorry, Marty. Didn't mean to keep gushing again. But yeah, what do you think what are your thoughts are on
this movie? This is probably my favorite in the franchise.
Oh wow.
It is. I like the first one, but I don't there's just such a hard edge, and just as you said, that 70s, that fucking kind of real sour 70s vibe to this movie, and it's just like, yeah, this is like fucking Death Wish and fucking Dirty Harry. There's just that nasty edge to it, and it works. It works, and it doesn't pull its punches. Yeah, not that the other ones didn't either, but this one was just fucking full on, you know.
It
They
goes
made
for
this one for Brian. They were like, okay, Brian, last one was too funny. All right, here you go.
it.
Try this one on for size.
It's like we're killing Ricardo soon. Deal with it.
No more Fantasy Island for you, sir.
What's your thoughts on Conquest, though, Ethel?
I love it, and it is the most 70s out of all these films. Dark, dreary ending. Well, if you see the original version, included. It's great film. I don't know. I love how brutal it is and how it just goes for it. That's why I say this one is neck and neck with Escape for me as my favorite of the sequels. I still love the first one better than all the others, but yeah.
It's definitely up there. What about you, Brian? What's your thoughts on Conquest?
It's the best of the sequels. I just love the architecture and the costume design and like how they put that thing over his head, like tell the truth to Armando to tell the truth. The brutality of it, the nothing's soft in this film. It's sort of like, well, I mean, obviously they started bringing parallels to slavery and it, like the auction block and
Yeah.
but yeah, and how he changes from this kind of shy chimpanzee to a leader, and the speech at the end. I mean, I was sort of getting roused up and like I was getting very, very sympathetic to the apes, and like they're not going to stop. Like, oh, the riot police are coming. They're firing the guns, but they just keep coming and coming and coming. And I guess, oh yeah, they don't. The guy that leads the whole humans, I guess he spares his life at the end of the movie. I think he does. I think they're just about to kill him, maybe, and they.
Oh yeah, this is where the difference in the cuts comes, right, Nate?
I watched the unrated one. I didn't see the other one, so I don't know which one is which.
So the theatrical cut, they wanted to change how it ended. They didn't want it to be bleak. They wanted it to be a bit more uplifting, which to me, like, you can't do that. I get it, what you're trying to do, but you can't do it. It doesn't work. This movie is going down. And you can't just be like at the last second. Because literally the speech is like, Roddy McDowell's like a zoom in on his face with an angry expression and him saying, we must agree to happiness and peace and all that. And they reverse the footage of the gorillas with the guns. So instead of raising the guns, they lower the guns, and the humans and the apes are supposedly going to be at peace with each other, and they're going to live happily ever after.
That's such a cop-out.
It really doesn't work. I know why they were wanting to do it, but I'm so glad the uncut version is there because that's the movie. That's what the movie is.
I was going to watch the theatrical one, but I was trying to get through these films before the stream. So I watched the unrated cut because I thought the unrated cut would have, more stuff you wouldn't see in the theatrical, and maybe, just more. I was thinking things like gore, maybe. Yeah.
They got stuff in there. You see stabbings. You see people get their heads bashed. You see blood everywhere, getting shot, fire stunts. I think a lot of those action scenes are on point.
They're chimpanzees, yet we never see anybody's face get ripped off.
Oh God, that'd been crazy.
And then like how he chooses.
But you never see somebody's fucking entire face just ripped off with bare hand or ape hands, or see them target the genitalia as chimpanzees truly do.
Then they'd be
Caesar,
like, PG-13.
how he chooses, how he fools the main antagonist when he's in their custody. You know, like he pretends to be stupid.
Yeah.
And then how he chooses his name, Caesar.
And I felt bad when he's getting tortured, when he's getting electrocuted, and Roddy McDowell screaming.
And that black guy,
McDonald's.
McDonald's
a great character.
He has sympathy. Yeah, you know, you carry him on into the next movie. So, but you know, because he knows because he's black about slavery. I think that's why he doesn't. That's why he doesn't act. He deactivates the electrocution thing that Caesar's on. Yeah, I love this movie. All the flames and the
lighting, great lighting too at the end.
The music and the just how grim and violent it is, and just it takes no prisoners. I mean, it goes for the throat. Just
that's a great way to describe it.
It's 1984. I'm thinking of, and things. That's Brazil in my head. It's one of those types of movies. It's just. I know. I was thinking of THX 1138. It made me think of that too. And it echoes of that in there. Yeah, and I don't know if this film has a lot of humor in it. I don't think it does.
No, it's
no.
It's somber as fuck.
Yeah, so I like I just like how it doesn't take any prisoners. It pulls no punches. It just goes through the throat. That's what I like about this movie. So it's probably my favorite of the sequels. I love this movie. I was really loving it. I'd rewatch this movie.
Oh, definitely. This is one of the more rewatchable ones for sure. That's a wonderful breakdown you just did too, man. Conquest is wonderful. I think it gets a highlight of the franchise. And I kind of want to ask you guys a question before we move on to battle. Do you guys think that it was just too ahead of its time? Like, do you agree? Like, do you think that if it was maybe made later, it would have fit in a bit more? Do you think it was just like, in this franchise, people weren't ready for something like this? It's too real. It got too close to realism. Got too close.
That can happen sometime. Like, you can make a movie and like 5 years later it has more relevance than it did when it came out. I think there are movies of that nature,
I think what might hurt it as a sequel is them changing that ending. That's maybe why it's not as regarded as highly as it could be. It's because people remember the theatrical ending, which feels kind of awkward and jammed in there.
That's a good point. Because we didn't have this ending available till what? That Blu-ray set? And that was like 2016. So it went many years. Oh, DVD. Okay.
Yeah, because one of the DVD box sets I have, because I have like I have two different DVD box sets for this. And one of the older ones has it, and that was from it was a lot earlier than 2016, but yeah.
And I just think you can't change that ending. That ending, it's just where it's got to go. It's reset for like an hour and a half.
Yeah, the studio wanted something more optimistic for the ending because they didn't like how it was going, so they changed it and kind of shot themselves a little bit in the foot. I think
it does. It misses the beat and the point, because all the other prior movies had downer endings, and this had more of an upbeat ending. You're like, this is the planet. This is the most bleak Planet of the Apes movies there is, and it doesn't have a downer ending. Wait, how does that fucking work? Like, I think that people were left baffled that, like, you had such a grim movie in a franchise that was notable for its kind of grim endings, and it had a positive ending. I don't know. I think that like you were saying, Ethel, that's kind of what fucking put a spanner in the works for this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Which is kind of after everything that Conquest did, I think to follow it up with this next movie, they tried. But with
School bus
Conquest,
of the apes.
yeah, the school bus of the apes shot in a backyard somewhere. What's up, Brian?
Nate, I gotta use the restroom. I'll be back in just a second.
Oh, no problem, no problem.
Okay.
But to get on to our next entry, Conquest, diminishing returns, and it just critically, just this movie wasn't. It wasn't. It was ahead of its time. People just weren't ready for it. They didn't look at it as a very good Planet of the Apes movie, and the money, just the return. They were ready to wrap it up. It was like, okay, we've stretched this as far as we can stretch it. Let's move on to our last movie, not only in this franchise at the time, but also of the discussion here. We got Battle for the Planet of the Apes, which came out in 1973. Same director, J. Lee Thompson, total opposite tone from the last movie. And if you watch the uncut version of Conquest, it doesn't quite work when you watch this, because this follows the theatrical cuts ending where humans and apes learn to work together, learn to sort of live with each other. They don't really love each other or like each other. They're just sort of done with each other, and they have like a mutual line in the sand. And there's still some stuff in there where they try to redo some stuff from the first movie. A lot of trying to harken back, trying to repeat some things from the first movie. And I'll let Ethel start out with this one, just to sort of give a quick thought on it. Though I do think it's probably the weakest of the original franchise, but I'll get more in depth on it later. But Ethel, what's your thoughts on Battle to the Planet of the Apes?
No argument on it being a weak entry. This is the one I like the least. School bus of the apes. Why is there a school bus?
Because
why?
they had access to one, Ethel. That's why.
Why does it still work? What happened to the nuclear war? Where is the? Oh my God! What the? Oh my God! Why?
Why was there a nuclear war? I guess it just picked up the timeline from the original. They were just like, post-apocalyptic
I
again.
had always assumed that the humans were like, fuck this. If the apes are taking over the planet, let's just fucking end it now. I thought that was a knock-on effect of the ape revolution, that they were like, yeah, let's just fucking...
It could have been. That's a good point.
Suicide pill.
How did the apes evolve so fast?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
They learned. Yeah.
You're sort of changing my mind a little bit.
Because it even says here 10 years after, it's the 10 years after what happened with Part 4.
Why can't you tell an ape no? What, Jesus Christ? What if they ask you if you want fries with that? Or if you want a super, you gotta say yes every fucking time? Dear God. It's the way to run a society.
Yeah. Yes, man. This is before Yes, Man. Kind of the same concept. No, man. Just say yes.
He has said the forbidden word.
So you're not the biggest fan of Battle for the Planet of the Apes?
No, it's the film out of the series that I've seen the least amount of times, and there's a good reason for that. Because every time I watch it, I find myself shouting at the screen and, doing what I usually do, make fun of everything I see. Yeah. I mean, it's good for that, I guess.
Yeah, maybe a bit of comedic factor there. What about you, Marty? What's your thoughts on Battle for the Planet of the Apes?
Can we just mention that John Huston, one of the greatest Western directors of any fucking time, of all time, turns up as an ape in this movie. Wow.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, he's the lawgiver. He's the lawgiver at the start.
Oh shit!
Yeah, John
and
Huston.
the end too.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize that. I didn't make it very obvious.
No, it's just weird. It's just like it's like if you had fucking, it's not quite up there with Orson Welles' voice of the Transformer, but it's pretty fucking close,
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's just I think they were out of ideas. Like Conquest. I think Conquest would have been the logical conclusion to the series, but maybe they felt that a bit more gas in the tank. But as Ethel pointed out, like the poster, if you look at the poster, it looks fucking epic. You've got like this big army and apes on horseback, and one ape is about to kill a dude who has a flamethrower. And it's like none of that happens in the movie. It's just a bunch of mad cunts attacking the ape city, the ape settlement in a fucking school bus.
And why does the ape wear jeans in that poster? If you look at the poster, he was wearing jeans.
It's
like, what the fuck?
Hey, those are Levi's 501s, and they are the fucking.
They got them on discount.
They survived the nuclear winter. They're good jeans,
It's like, why is he wearing jeans?
These acid washed don't fade.
The fallout didn't ruin the style, I guess.
No, they didn't. But it's just, again, it feels like it's the last tug on the tit before the milk is gone. That's all I'm gonna fucking say, man. And it's obvious.
That's a fair way to put it. Brian, what's your thoughts on it before I get into this fucking thing?
I probably like it a little more than Ethel and Marty. But maybe you guys are sort of showing holes in it. Like, I mean, the school bus did jut out for me. Because, yeah, I don't know. It's showing these. I guess it's showing the birth of the telepathic people because they got those. I don't know, things over their heads. So I guess it's the birth.
Yeah, kind of irradiated mutants.
Right. And I guess one of the carries overs from the previous one, Conquest. One of those fastest kind of guys. He's now one of the heads of the bomb city or whatever. And and I don't know. Who's the he looks like Dr. Zayas, but he's not Dr. Zayas, and he holds the weapons.
Yeah, you're talking about is it Culp? No, that's the villain.
Well, whatever his name is. Oh, you know his name, Ethel?
Aldo?
Professor. No, Professor. Was it? I what?
Mandimus?
Mardimus?
Yeah. What? Yeah, I guess so. It doesn't sound right.
You talk like the more like the more chubbier orangutan character.
He's
the chubby orangutan. Yeah. Right.
I don't know. Is that who he's talking about?
Yeah, he's got the Dr. Zayas kind of orangutan look to him.
Mm-hmm.
He's got that look, look on him.
There's Madimus the peacemaker, and there's Virgil the war counselor.
Yeah, I think he must be the peacemaker. I guess it's kind of interesting because they like, the McDonald he finds out that because I think Caesar's son gets murdered by Aldo. And like McDonald figures out that it wasn't an accident; he was killed. by Aldo breaking the branch. So that was kind of interesting. And let's see, they at the start of the movie, it's McDonald and I think it's Caesar and another ape that go to the humans city at the start. I think that's how it goes. I don't know. I mean, putting the humans in the corral, I don't know. Maybe can't the humans react a little bit more against that? Like, why do they just go to the corral? I don't know. Maybe, I mean, the apes like tell them they can't say a certain word or something. Maybe that's sort of like,
they can't say no. They're not allowed to say no.
Oh,
And
it's
ape
like-
no kill ape.
it's like totalitarian countries like China. Like, you just, if you say that, you're going to jail. So they put them in the corral and.
It's like being in the UK.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I probably
Holy
like this
shit.
more than Ethel and Marty, I would say. I don't know.
Burn.
Maybe budget reasons for the bus. They would just maybe they had good access to an old school bus. I don't know.
Oh, it's like as the movies went on, as Ethel said, the budgets get fucking reduced. And it's like, there was probably a kid's tour on fucking 20th Century Fox. Like, hey, we'll let the kids watch if we can borrow your school bus.
Right.
What the fuck?
Say, pal, we're making a movie over here. Mind if we borrow a school bus?
Yeah.
There's a nice bus. It could be in pictures.
Also, one other thing I liked, and I liked McDonald in the last one, but what I really liked is they changed the actor with Austin Stoker from Assault on Precinct 13. I was like, that's pretty cool.
Uh-huh.
Is that guy who played McDonald? Was he in? I saw Assault on Precinct 13.
Yeah, in
that's
this
him?
movie it was a different actor from Conquest, Brian.
Oh, the guy.
I
who plays
noticed that.
McDonald,
I was
you
like,
mean.
he looks like a different actor too. I was like,
It's
casted him.
in Brian in Battle.
Yeah.
It's Austin Stoker from Assault on Precinct 13.
Oh, okay. In battle.
Different guy.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was the same guy. I didn't catch that.
Oh.
Yeah, so I guess I like it more than Ethel and Marty too, I would say. I probably think it's, let me see. Yeah, the second best of the sequels, I'd say, for me.
Apparently, John
Wow.
Landis was in this film.
John Landis?
Yeah, he was in this film,
Right.
apparently.
Everyone
he?
was in this movie. Austin Stoker, John
He's
Landis,
Jake's friend.
John fucking
Wait.
Houston.
Wait, John Landis, he must have been a kid. Or
Yeah, he
was
was Jake's friend.
Jake, well, who's Jake? I can't remember.
I think that's the son of Caesar, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Ethel, that makes sense because Landis was actually a mail boy at the 20th Century Fox lot. So they were like, "Hey, kid, we need an extra, or we need an actor."
Yeah.
I mean, he was also in the Dirty Dozen. He was a background character in the Dirty Dozen as well, if I'm not mistaken.
John
And
Landis?
he did stunt work for a period of time too. So there's a lot of films he's been in that we don't even realize because he was stunts.
And shame he didn't fucking do the stunts instead of fucking Rob Merrill. Poor fucking.
Yes,
stunt.
it is. Yes, it is. But yeah.
Yeah.
I like Aldo. I mean, and Caesar. Like the contrast. Like Caesar's trying to. Maybe there's a character arc with Caesar. He's realizing he's got to be benevolent, and Aldo's just wants power. So yeah, I think I like this movie more than Ethel and Marty do. If that makes that sounds
That's okay.
right. Yeah.
No,
That's fine.
That's grand. I'd never fucking like it's not the worst. I don't think.
The
No, I
most
don't think it's
important
the
thing.
worst. Yeah.
Most important thing from a film is what you get out of it. So I mean, if you like it more than me or Marty, it means you get something out of it a little bit more than.
Yeah,
than
and that's the cool thing about that's the cool thing about getting everybody together to talk about, like big franchises and stuff. It's always cool to hear, like, some people prefer this type of movie or this type of movie. It's always cool to hear the different opinions on
Oh, and you
films.
know what? Now I'm thinking to myself, maybe it's not a cop out, and I'm not a pessimistic ending, because they defeat Aldo, I think, and then the guns get returned to whoever he is, the Peacemaker, whatever. And
Hmm.
I think that's how it ends. I can't remember the very ending of it. What happens at the very
It
end?
sort of wraps up in a bizarre way where the ending is probably the happiest ending of all the Planet of the Apes
Yeah,
movies, where the humans and the apes are living together. They've been together for hundreds of years, but there is that moment, and I will admit, the ending is for me with Battle, the best part is the ending. The best part is the cap on this franchise of how we end it. Of okay, this is the new timeline. This is the humans and apes. None of them are perfect. They've all made mistakes, but they've moved on. They're living in sort of harmony together. But I do like that moment though, where there is the ape and the young ape and the young kid. They like tease each other. So there's that moment where you're wondering, oh, is there going to be
Oh,
another rivalry
right.
somewhere in there? Is that?
yeah.
Nate, the statue crying as well.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
yeah, where the
I
statue,
forgot about that shit. Yeah.
yeah, because it's like the statue knows that this isn't fucking this is not going to last.
And they bring up the cycle of violence.
Yeah,
Gets brung up a lot in this movie. I like that part of it. I like the idea of, okay, it's a little different. Here's showing them living in sort of harmony, but at the same time, there's that tension that will never go away. It will never be perfect. And I I enjoyed some things. This it's there. It exists. It was made. It's part of the franchise. It's it's decent. It's okay. I don't really hate it, but let's put it this way. This is the one Planet of the Apes movie I didn't review. Like when I reviewed all the originals, I didn't even review this movie because I was like, I don't really have much to say. And then this is the Planet of the Apes movie where I had a choice. Do I revisit this or Escape? And I revisited Escape. So this is definitely one that I'm not really going to go back to a lot, and I don't really want to watch it. I don't jump for
Well,
joy when I hear
maybe
Battle for Planet of the Apes, you know.
maybe it sort of rehashes the previous movie in a way.
It's just
You know,
cheaper. It just looks cheap. It looks like it was shot out in the woods somewhere. They reuse costumes, they reuse sets, they reuse props from other movies in this,
they're
and
just milking it, basically.
yeah, just real low budget. Just seems cheap. The story ain't as good as some of the other ones. I don't mind the idea of like, okay, here's Caesar. He has a family now, and there's a pretty dark scene where the kid gets killed. That's pretty dark.
mhm.
There's some things I appreciate about it, like locking the guns away and thinking that the guns are what causes violence. Interesting stuff there. I think where it really gets messy is the whole battle for the Planet of the Apes, because it doesn't really feel like a battle. It feels
Oh,
more
yeah.
like
Well, I mean, like with the previous one, you see dead bodies on the ground, and like they're just shooting each other, and like nothing's. It looks like nothing's happening. Like,
yeah, and it just looks
you
like they
know,
found a random field somewhere and was like, there, we'll go shoot it there. Oh, that's very open. Here, get that school bus in here. Hey, let's get some explosions here and there. Let's have the same shot of the same building blowing up 8 times from different angles in the scene. I'm just like, wow, man. It's a movie that it needed a bigger budget. It needed more money. It didn't have the money. It didn't have the time. It didn't have the script. It didn't have Roddy McDowell is the best part. I don't really like the new character, the orangutan character. I thought he was annoying. They tried to make him the comedic relief side character, and I'm like, he's annoying. I don't like the villain. I think he's forgettable.
oh, I like the villain.
Yeah, it's just
I
not.
know what you're talking about.
It's not memorable to me. It's just sort of there. It exists. It's a short movie. It's an hour and 33 minutes, so it's serviceable. It's an ending. It ends the franchise. I like how the franchise begins and ends, and I like how they leave it a little bit open ended to let you know, like, it ain't all sunshine and rainbows, folks. It ain't all good, but it's okay. It's all right. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's okay. I think that's the most I can really say about it. Don't hate it. Although I also noticed the costumes, man. The costumes, the makeup looks cheaper too. Even the look, like Roddy McDowell's makeup looks like it cost about $5 in this movie.
He loses his mouth apparatus during the Fight Like Apes speech.
Really?
Yeah, I guess they didn't use enough spirit gum, or maybe he was sweating too much or something. But in the middle of his speech, it starts falling off, and to hide this, at the bottom half of the screen, like just below his nose, they blur out a couple frames of the footage, and it looks sort of like dust to kind of hide it. But if you look closely, you can see it happen. Yeah, you can see it.
Jesus Christ!
Oh God!
Yeah, I gotta go look for that now.
Yeah, it's when he's like, "Fight like apes," and then the fucking mouthpiece starts falling off.
Oh God, that's movie magic.
That's the best part of the movie right there. We can't afford it, pal. Let's move on to the next scene.
We've only.
There's a fine picture. Get some dust on the film, eh?
It's a battle. It's epic. You see the same explosion 12 times. It's great.
He blew his goddamn jaw off. What?
This is good family fun film for the whole family, huh?
Sir, we only have five ape costumes for this battle scene. It's all right, pal. Just get some different camera angles in there. Look great.
It'll be great.
We've got it.
We've got it.
We don't have enough ape costumes. We'll get homeless people. We'll put them in the back.
It's okay. There's not a lot of apes right now. It's right after the Great War. Oh, wait, they didn't have the war. It's okay, Phil. It's okay. It's a film. Bring your girl and your best kids.
We're paying them with crude liquor.
I don't even think it worked for back then, like 1973. Even if I was back in the 70s and I seen this, I'd be like, it just looks cheap. It doesn't look as good as the other movies.
You know what? Why do they have a school bus? Why?
That's what Ethel was asking. It makes no sense.
It was fucking there, Brian. They had it because it was there.
Look, if you're
filming,
filming,
does it make sense in the context of the universe of Planet of the Apes? That's
look. When you're filming on in the fucking behind the track of a disused high school, and there's a school bus there, you use it. Damn it!
You're going to use it. It's where Robert Rodriguez got his mantra. He's like, when I was making my first movie, all I had was a tortoise, $500 in the school bus. He got the idea. He got the idea from fucking,
Oh, El Mariachi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad when your TV series has the same size budget as your big movie.
It looks. I haven't even seen it yet. I've seen screenshots and it looks better.
It does. I think it does anyway.
Yeah, from the screenshots I've seen, it looks better. I was looking at it. It's like it just looks better. Dude, the gorilla masks, the makeup, you can see the eyes. Like plain as day, like down here. Where the mask ends. I'm like, dude, how do you mess that up? Like, what the fuck? But while it isn't the best way to end the franchise, I don't think it's terrible. I don't hate it. I wouldn't say it's one of the worst movies ever, but like it's a lackluster, mediocre way to end your franchise.
You know what I think about the makeup?
What's that?
When you take the makeup, you got to take like several hours to apply all the pieces. So if you just put on a pull-on mask, you're saving time there.
Yeah, I'd imagine they just did that. I'd imagine they just reused makeup. Like, we got this mold.
We finished by Thursday.
Wasn't it a
fucking
2 hour?
Go
Wasn't it a 2 hour turnaround time on the makeup?
Yeah, but
Jesus.
some of them had but they wouldn't put makeup on everyone. They like for the background shots. Dude, they even explained in the documentary how they cheaped out. They explained that in the background, it's not even the same costumes as some of the other apes. They just cheap leather and random shirts they found. Like I guess if you look in the background, you just tell it's not. They don't even care about what's in the background. Like they just had them wear whatever. And they're like, yeah. And then in certain scenes, like the villain in this movie, a part of his costume is the same costume as the villain from the second movie. So you just start noticing some weird things there. But
They're just one,
even
they're one thrift shop away from having apes and
yeah,
Billy Beard shirts.
it really is. It's like a thrift store. But this ain't nothing compared to Empire of the Apes. So Empire of the Apes, that's next level.
I'm telling you, Nate. Some fucker went down to Skid Row. He goes, "Which one of you bums wants to be in a movie?" Just fucking, just switch
All you
it
gotta do
up.
is play some apes. Just walk around the background, pal. You got it.
There's a bottle of Jim Beam in it for you. Yay!
You want to be in pictures? We're making pictures right over here. How'd you like to be in a movie? If you see there, you can
Yeah.
go see it with your kids and your best girl. Yeah.
Here's a cup of coffee. But yeah, even though Battle isn't as good as it could have been, I think it's still the franchise as a whole. With looking at the franchise, I love the Planet of the Apes franchise. I love most of the movies in it. Talking about the original series, really enjoy this franchise, and I think it's good stuff. A lot of fun. But to sort of give our closing thoughts on the franchise, what do you guys think about the journey we've been on with Planet of the Apes? Final closing thoughts. You want to start, Marty?
Definitely what I'd call some fucking peaks and valleys, but mainly peaks. Again, as I said, the first one is seminal, and it cements its place among iconic sci-fi movies. Doesn't get as much credit as it should, but it's a solid one. The rest of them are good, even at the weakest point. They still have something to say, and they're enjoyable to watch. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. What about you, Ethel?
Well, if you're a fan of science fiction, you really can't skip the franchise. You might be able to skip you can skip Battle. Go ahead and skip Battle, but you gotta have it. It's like required viewing. It's science fiction 101. And they're good films. They're well put together, and they take you on a little ride. Sure, it takes a harsh left turn at the very end, and comes this weird family friendly thing that doesn't make any sense. And like, what are we doing here? We're trying to sell it to kids, but at the same time, it's like it was selling to kids already. So it's like, I don't know. Anyway, let's make the parents happy. Yeah, so skip the fifth one if you don't want to. I mean, you should watch it anyway just to be a completionist. And there's an anime. There's an animated version. And there is a live action television show as well. Both did one season.
We also got two video games, one in 1983 on the Amiga, and we also got one for the PlayStation in 2001, which is fucking horrendous as well.
I seen gameplay. Oh, but Angry Video Game Nerd did a great video on that.
Yeah.
Ooh, I should play that. It's a PlayStation. I could play that for free.
Oh, it's really bad.
It's horrible.
I could ROM this sucker.
Why does all the movie properties have terrible games back in the day?
Because it's the lowest bidder. You know?
Well, I heard the Predator one wasn't that bad. Was it Predator or Alien? They made a few Alien ones.
Alien vs Predator games are good, but no, yeah, you're right. A lot of them, like you'll get for every fucking GoldenEye video game, you'll get fucking a bunch of other Men in Black video games. So,
What about you, Brian? What's your closing thoughts on Planet of the Apes? Was it cool? Was
Uh,
it cool seeing them? Or did you like
oh,
them?
I enjoyed watching them. It was a lot of fun, and for the most part, um, most of them were not that bad. Escape kind of jutted out for me, but it had some um, redeeming points to it, like at the start. I mean, a little at the start where they're coming out with the astronaut suits and apes, and the ending. So, and the first one is a landmark, I would say. But I love uh, Conquest. I really love that one. I could see myself rewatching that. I mean, I could rewatch the first one too, but and I have rewatched the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it brought. I've seen the first two prequels. I saw the Tim Burton one. That wasn't that great in my opinion, the Tim Burton one. But Rise and Dawn, I still got to watch War. But yeah, I think this is some great ideas here. Some that are being explored about interesting issues within our society, and they're fun. And so yeah, I was glad I watched these. And I still have to watch all the special features. So I was just trying to get all these films watched before the stream. So I gotta go back and catch up on all that stuff.
You're a trooper, man. I couldn't even do that. I didn't even watch all of them again. So
Nate, I told you disc 5 didn't work for me, so I had to watch it off of YouTube. So I ordered a replacement. Yeah.
Mhm.
So overall, I enjoyed the experience, and I think it's worth for people to watch them. Even like Escape, I guess. I think people can get something out of these movies. So yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was fun rewatching. I got to rewatch Escape, so that was pretty cool. It was fun talking about these movies with you guys. It was a blast. Thank you guys so much for being on here. Shout out to everybody in here. I also want to give a quick shout out to people in the chat. We had John Steele, we had Colton the guy, we had Kelly in the chat, Alaskan Super, Terrence McWana. Ooh, Ben Grimm showed up.
Ooh, haven't seen him in a while.
Nice.
I know, right? Welcome back, man. Dubsky popped up. What's up, man? Chuck Calkins. Chuck, what's up? And we had Strange Dog Comic Stuff. So thank you guys for being along with the journey, along with the ride, and thank y'all on the panel here for being a part of this journey. It was a long road, but we finally made it. We kicked ass tonight, y'all. We covered all 5 films. That's awesome. And thank you guys for being patient and being here and being along the journey with me. I appreciate you guys for being here. Shout out to everybody on the panel. Brian, Marty, Ethel, thank you guys so much for being on this show today, and thank you guys so much for being a part of the stream.
Oh,
Cool.
thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Not a problem at all. It was good to get back to this. I missed doing streams. But this is not it for Planet of the Apes. We shall continue the journey eventually. Until then, see you guys later. Thank you, everybody on here, and peace.
Adios.
Oh, damn you, dirty ape.
Slán Walia.
They blew it up.